Greetings embroidery hoop screen printers. My name is Amanda Height and I'll be walking you through this process today. I hope that this video finds you taking care and working through your Winter Wonderland kits. So today we're going to talk about DIY screen printing. So the supplies that you'll need for this activity are going to be your embroidery hoop. You'll also need an image. You'll need either a pen or a pencil. You'll also need your container that has Mod Podge in it, your paintbrush, and then also your mat board square, and then a little container of black ink that is in your kit. You're also, the last thing in order to print is you're going to need some paper. And so for this project we put in a card in an envelope, but then also just a clean white sheet of paper. So first things first is with your embroidery hoop is you want to make sure that this little top part right here is nice and tight. So you can turn it just to feel it. And then you're going to want to take the fabric that's on your embroidery hoop and just kind of pull it to make sure that all of your fabric's nice and tight. If it's loose, you're going to have printing issues. So just take the extra fabric that you have around and just give it a nice little pull. And you'll start to see that the inside part right here tightens up really nicely. So the next step is that we are going to walk through images. And so one of my favorite things to do with this process is to go onto Google, and I like to look up various black and white silhouette or black and white vector images. And so for this one, you'll see I decided to do trees. You can also do whatever you want for it. This process lends itself really well to block shapes. And so whether you look up like a snowflake, or if you wanted to do hexagons or circles or squares, or even look up like a vector flower, I fully encourage you to do that. Again, just remember that block shapes will work best for this. So when you're all ready, the next thing you're going to do is put your embroidery hoop face down to start to trace your image. So face down is going to be this front part, and then the part that has a little bit of a dip down into it is what's going to be the back part or the well side of the embroidery hoop. So how I'm going to do that is to set my image down, set my embroidery hoop on top, and you'll see here, just for time's sake, I started to trace just a little bit already. But again, you can either use a pencil or a pen, and go ahead and just trace around that outline. While you're doing that, kind of think about what parts of this you want the ink to pass through and what parts you want to kind of create a band-aid, which is what our Mod Podge is for. So I just kind of traced around it. And when I lift this up, I have a nice block shape here. And so when I'm done with that, I can get rid of my image. The next part is to go through and start applying your Mod Podge. Again, this acts as a band-aid for everywhere where you don't want the ink to be. So that's usually towards the outside of the embroidery hoop, and then any details that are in the middle. And when you work through this, what you're going to want to do is paint a pretty nice layer on it. You can paint it on the well side, but you can also paint it on the front side as well. And so what I like to do is put down like a nice little chunk, and then I'll flip my embroidery hoop over and start to kind of spread out what's on the back. Because you'll notice that a little bit of Mod Podge goes a long way. And make sure you get to the edges, because again, I'm just blocking out all of those little holes that are in my fabric so that I can put ink there, and then ink's going to go through where I want it to, which is where my trees are. That's my main goal. And so you're going to keep working on it through the front and the back. Remember, this part does take just a little bit of time because we need the Mod Podge to be dry before you start printing. And so you can do like one light layer, two light layers, one heavier layer. It's totally up to you. A good trick to know if the Mod Podge is completely dry is that when you touch it, if it's still cold to the touch, that means it's still starting to dry. Another trick that I encourage you to do is take your embroidery hoop and hold it up to the light, and you'll be able to start to see all of those open areas that you have not covered yet. with your Mod Podge. And so once I have that all done, again, set it off to the side, just let it dry. It's something that you can come back to shortly. Then, once I'm done with it, and it is all dry, it's time to start printing. So what you're going to do is, again, get your sheet of paper, put your embroidery hoop face down. This is where you're going to need your mat board square, and then your black screen printing ink. So the next part, so I did this nice little border around with my Mod Podge, so that's a nice place to put your ink. That way it doesn't get too insanely messy. You don't need much. Again, a little goes a long way. So I'll kind of look and set up my embroidery hoop where I want my image to be on my sheet of paper. So see here, I'm kind of centering it on my card. My next step is to take my piece of mat board square, and at about a 45-degree angle, so I kind of go at it this way, I'm going to take all of the ink that I see here and kind of glide it across. That way I'm pushing ink through these open areas, which are going to again be my tree, in order to make it print. Go all the way around, again, using that nice edge of my mat card. Another good thing that works is like an old gift card or credit card works really well as well. All right, and then when you're done, lift it up and your image printed. And so you'll see here, you have kind of a nice texture that's happening from the embroidery hoop. I made mine a little painterly towards the bottom to make it look like maybe there's some snow that's on the ground. You can add these elements as you start to do your Mod Podge layer. There is no right or wrong way to do it. So when you're all done, what you're going to do is you can take your embroidery hoop, wash it under cold water, and you can reuse it later down the road if you want. But another beautiful thing about this process is that since you already have ink out and everything, you can print another one very easily. So I set that to the side, let it start to dry, grab another sheet of paper, set this down over the top the best I can. I can either add a little more ink or use the ink that's already on my mat board square and just start to push it through again. The beauty of printmaking is that we have the option to make multiples. So it might be a good way to send out cards to friends during the season, or to make small prints as gifts. And once I think I have a good coating of the ink, I can set the extra ink off on the side, lift this up, and there's my trees again. This is a great process to do when you're just starting to learn about screen printing. If you find that you have any questions about it, please feel free to email Carol or myself at Plains Art Museum, and we can gladly walk through the process with you if you have any questions. Thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoy printing. Have a good day.